Okay, hey, we're rolling. Welcome back to the second year of, what is this? Ah, the movie rankings. Yes. So, yeah, today I'm gonna rank every movie I watched in the year 2023. This year's list isn't quite as extensive as last year. We've got 159 this year. And we're just gonna get right into it and start at the very bottom of the barrel. In last place, Halloween 3, Season of the Witch, 1982. Kids all over America want silver shamrock masks for Halloween. Dr. Daniel Chalice seeks to uncover a plot by silver shamrock owner Colonel Cochran. This movie is just awful. It's genuinely awful. Nothing about it really works. I mean, the effects are bad even by 80s standards. The storyline is just what? Just overall, it's not good. It's really not good. This had to beat some very bad movies to get this low as well. So, yeah. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Wow, that was bad. Up next, we got Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance, 2011. Johnny Blaze, tortured by the Ghost Rider's curse, gets a chance at redemption through protecting the devil's son, whose father is pursuing him. I could go on about how bad this one is as well. I mean, Nicolas Cage can't even save it, and he spends most of the time as Nicolas Cage. The devil's changed his name for some reason. This one guy has the power of decay, which is just lame. It's a bad movie. Everything about it's bad. I mean, it had Idris Elba in as well, and it was still bad. It's just, awful. Number 157, we got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3 from 1993. When their closest friend April O'Neil discovers an ancient scepter with magical powers, the Turtles must cowabunga their way back to the 17th century Japan to rescue her from the evil clutches of Lord Norinaga. It's a bad film. It's fun, but it is a bad film. It's just so stupid. But it's fun, which is why it beat the other two. Coming in 156, we got A Good Day to Die Hard, 2013. John McClane travels to Russia to help out his seemingly wayward son Jack, only to discover that Jack is a CIA operative working undercover, causing the father and son to team up against underworld forces. Now, it goes without saying that Die Hard is one of the best action movies of all time. Die Hard 5? No, it's not. It's really not. It is just... It is passable as an action movie, but it fails as a Die Hard movie. Yippee-ki-nay on that one. Number 155, The Happening, 2008. A science teacher, his wife, and a young girl struggle to survive a plague that causes those infected to commit suicide. It's a Shyamalan movie, and it starts promisingly. And then it doesn't. It kind of gives away the twist halfway through, and it gets really... I don't know, the acting gets very bad in the latter half. It wasn't great. It was good to begin with, and then it was good until it wasn't. Number 154, Hercules in New York, 1970. Hercules is sent to Earth, where he finds true love and starts a promising career in the bodybuilding business. Well, I mean, first of all, he was from Earth, Athens. Great job, IMDb. Great job. Secondly, just awful. It's funny, but it is so bad. I mean, Schwarzenegger's very early in his career. I mean, he barely talks English at this point, and he wasn't really in acting yet. But it's bad. it was an experience though. Number 153, Meg 2: The Trench, 2023. A research team encounters multiple threats while exploring the depths of the ocean, including a malevolent mining operation. The first half was boring, the second half was stupid. But the second half was fun at least. Number 152, Pups Alone, 2021. While everyone is away on a company ski trip, Robert's neighbor hires two inept thieves to steal his latest invention. The neighborhood dogs will use Robert's inventions to set up a house of horrors for the thieves. It's Home Alone, but with dogs. And a subpar plot. And Dolph Lundgren with hair colors in. Man. Alright, next up we got the DC League of Super Pets 2022. Crypto the Super Dog and Superman are inseparable best friends, sharing the same superpowers and fighting crime side by side in Metropolis. However, Crypto must master his own powers for a rescue mission when Superman is kidnapped. It's your kind of standard fare kids movie. It's nothing amazing. It's nothing terrible. It has Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. It had a good cast. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it's low, but most of the other movies were really good. So, you know. Number 150, Knowing, 2009. MIT professor John Kostler links a mysterious list of numbers from a time capsule to past and future disasters and sets out to prevent the ultimate catastrophe. I feel like this would have been a really good kind of sci-fi mystery movie until it ended up being about the end times and then aliens came down. Like, up until that point it was going okay, but after that it's just, nah, you lost me. And Nick Cage is not very cagey in this one. He's very just normal, more normal than when he has to play normal characters like in Dream Scenario. He's just so normal. It could have been anyone in the role, and that kind of you know, yeah, this was Next up we got Jeepers Creepers 2001. A brother and sister driving home through isolated countryside for a spring break encounter a flesh-eating creature which is in the midst of its ritualistic eating spree. This is one of those ones where it starts interesting, and then it just gets kind of ridiculous, and, you know, it was alright, but it's not as good as the other better horror franchises like, you know, Halloween, Scream, Saw, you know. It was alright. Next on the list is The Santa Claus 3, The Escape Clause from 2006. Santa, aka Scott Calvin, is faced with double duty: how to keep his new family happy and how to stop Jack Frost from taking over Christmas. It has some awful writing in it, but, you know, it's Christmas. Christmas is the time for watching movies of questionable quality, isn't it? I'm looking at you, Hallmark. But, you know, it was alright. It's definitely the weakest of the three, and it's not great, but when it's Christmas, you'll watch anything. Alright, next on our list in the lower region here is Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, 2008. In 1957, Indiana Jones becomes entangled in a Soviet plot to uncover the secret behind mysterious artifacts known as the Crystal Skulls. As, what's his name? Sam Witwick in Transformers. Shia LaBeouf, it has him in it as well. And the movie was good until it wasn't. Basically, they shouldn't have got their hands on CGI, because it turned out pretty ropey. But, you know, it wasn't the best, but there you go. Crystal Skull. Alright, next one on the list is XXX2, The Next Level, 2005. Darius Stone, I think he was played by Ice Cube, a new agent in the XXX program, is sent to Washington, D.C. to stop a coup attempt against the President of the United States. This was a lot worse than the first XXX movie, and it's very obvious. It's just, there's so many mindless explosions, you would think it was a later Michael Bay project. Was it Michael Bay? I'm gonna have to look that up, actually. But yeah, it just... Who directed XXX2? Lee Tamahori. It was not Michael Bay. But, you know, the amount of, like, mindless explosions it could have been. It was an alright movie. It was an alright action movie, but it wasn't as good as the first one. I think that in part that's just because it wasn't Vin Diesel. And, you know, when it's that much 2000s edge, only Vin Diesel can pull it off. Next we got Mom and Dad, 2017. A teenage girl and her younger brother must survive a wild 24 hours during which a mass hysteria of unknown origin causes parents to turn violently on their own kids. It's one of the movies that never really explains why. A lot of you might know this movie from the Slap of God meme, where Nick Cage summons the power of God and slaps the guy. Might have probably seen the Rick and Morty version, but I watched it pretty much for that reason, and I wanted to like this movie. It had a quite interesting premise of parents suddenly wanting to kill their kids, but I feel like the ending just... it just kind of dropped off. I feel like it could have been good if there was a proper ending and they, maybe explained the cause of this sudden urge for parents to kill their kids. But it was fun. It was a fun one. It was alright. Next up is Pentathlon from 1994. This has got to be the only movie ever that's been made about a pentathlon, but here we go. An Olympic gold medalist escapes to freedom in the US, only to be tracked down by his sadistic ex-coach, Dolph Lundgren. He's done a few B movies, to say the least. But this one was good, I think, when it was just about the guy who's escaped Germany or whatever, and he's come to the US, he's trying to get back into pentathlon. But then, the Germans come over and are trying to get him, and it ends so suddenly as well. Like, I feel like it would have been better if it was just about this guy trying to get back into the pentathlon, but the whole bit with the Germans coming over and everything, I feel like it actually ruined the movie, but, despite being the main plot point, it's, 1990s straight-to-video kind of thing. Next up, I've gone for Gone in 60 Seconds from 2000. A retired master car thief must come back to the industry and steal 50 cars with his crew in one night to save his brother's life. Nick Cage, you came for the car chases and the car stealing and the car driving, and that's what you get. Everything else? It's alright. The plot's alright. You just came for the car chases. If you love cars, you'll love the movie, but it was alright. Then we go on to No Time to Die 2021. James Bond has left active service. His piece is short-lived when Felix Leiter, an old friend from CIA, turns up asking for help, leading Bond onto the trail of a mysterious villain armed with dangerous new technology. Now, I had a talk with this one with my friend Danny. We did a podcast, and we talked about this movie, and we talked about the ending and how it really divided Bond people. This was the only movie I really remember watching from the series. I know I've seen the previous one, but I don't remember anything from it. And I never understood the villain's motive. I never got it. I did actually quite like the ending. I thought it worked quite well. But I know overall I feel like this probably isn't the best movie to watch as your first Bond movie. I feel like there are probably others that are better. I don't know, I've never been that taken by it, I watch spy movies that are like comedy ones, like Austin Powers, but, I feel like No Time to Die is alright, but it's not brilliant. Next we got, oh boy, one of many times I'm going to get attacked. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem 2023. The film follows the Turtle Brothers as they work to earn the love of New York City while facing down an army of mutants. I wasn't going to watch it, but then I saw the reviews and I was like, okay, I'll watch it. And I feel like they changed the characters of the Turtles too much. Like, they're not these, 80s surfer dude, cowabunga, let's eat pizza kind of guy. They're just... I don't know, it's different. I get it, it's a reimagining and whatever, but it's different. It's not the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that have been in every other iteration of it. It was an alright movie, but I mean, the lack of Shredder and then the fact that the Turtles were so different, and I didn't really dig April in this one, but I just felt like they made some unnecessary almost Kathleen Kennedy-esque choices here, but if you saw the South Park special, you'll get that. But I don't know. Mutant Mayhem. Didn't like it as much. I thought it was alright. Maybe a 5 or 6 out of 10, but, Next up, we got The Punisher, 1989. When Frank Castle's family is murdered by criminals, he wages war on crime as a vigilante assassin known only as The Punisher. Dolph Lundgren. He hasn't done many that are ranked very high in my list this year, unfortunately. He makes fun films, but they're not always like great. But you know, these kind of action films, these are nice to have, where you could just sit down, put on the action film. You don't have to think too deep about the plot. It's just like, yeah, let's just shoot up some bad guys, you know. And for a pre MCU Marvel movie, this is all right. That they've others have been far worse. So you know, this ain't bad going. Next, we got Cocaine Bear 2023. An oddball group of cops, criminals, tourists, and teens converge on a Georgia forest where a huge black bear goes on a murderous rampage after unintentionally ingesting cocaine. And this is a true story, but or at least based on one. I know I wanted to really like this movie, but I feel like it wasn't as funny as I expected, considering the premise is a bear snorting cocaine decides to kill people. I don't know, I feel like it could have been funnier, but next we got 65, 2023. An astronaut crash lands on a mysterious planet only to discover he's not alone. I feel like this is interesting. It's quite nice to see a movie with dinosaurs that isn't Jurassic Park again and again and again. But you know, Adam Driver looks exactly like he does in every single movie he's done except Ferrari. He just always looks the same. It's basically just Kylo Ren. But and you know, it's a small cast one. It's quite interesting. It's like a drama, but I feel like at times it can't decide if it wants to be a drama, or if it wants to be a dinosaur action, or if it wants to be a horror. But overall, I think it worked quite well. Critics did not think this, but I don't know. It wasn't as I preferred the other movies on this list, I guess. But it's not to say 65 was bad. I quite enjoyed it. I quite liked having a dinosaur movie that wasn't just, hey, dinosaur theme park. But yeah. Next one's Haunted Mansion 2023. Oh, we got a few 2023s in a row here. A single mom named Gabby hires a tour guide, a psychic, a priest, and a historian to help exorcise her newly built mansion after discovering it is inhabited by ghosts. I was sold on Danny DeVito in this one, to be honest. I love Danny DeVito. He's so fun. And credit where it's due, Jared Leto didn't completely ruin this movie, because he was actually alright as the Hatbox Ghost. Normally you put Jared Leto in a movie, it's like, oh no, it's Morbin time. But it was alright. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was actually better than I expected. So there you go. Next up is Knock at the Cabin 2023. While vacationing, a girl and her parents are taken hostage by armed strangers who demand that the family make a choice to avert the apocalypse. It's kind of a weird self-harm version of Saw, but the four horsemen turn up and they say to this gay couple and their daughter, "Hey, guys, one of you's got to die to save the world from the apocalypse. Or you cannot die and you'll be the only people left after the apocalypse." Now, if this was a straight couple, it'd be like, "Oh, it's fine. We can Adam and Eve it." But, you know, when it's a gay couple and daughter, it's like, "Oh, you don't really have opportunity. Kind of have to save the world here." But, you know, they're reluctant to do it because, you know, neither of them want to kill themselves, and they don't even know if the apocalypse is real or not. And as it goes on, it's like this whole mystery of, will they, won't they? Is the apocalypse happening? Is it not happening? And in the end, it didn't really have a twist. It went exactly as you expected. But, you know, I feel like it was a good, serious performance from Dave Bautista, though. You know, he's usually hamming it up as Drax in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. So I was quite interested to see him in a different kind of role here. But I think ultimately the fact that an M. Night Shyamalan movie didn't have a twist is kind of weird. But I thought it was... It got your attention, though, and it kept it, because it did a good job at that. Next up, I've gone for the Santa Claus 2 from 2002. Scott Calvin has been a humble Santa Claus for 8 years, but it might come to an end if he doesn't find a Mrs. Claus. Now, I liked the side of it where it was Santa Claus has to find a Mrs. Claus. The side where it's like Santa made a toy Santa to look after the workshop, and the toy Santa decided to become a strict authoritarian or something. I know I felt like he didn't serve well as a bad guy. It's not a movie that needed a bad guy, but They could have just focused on the kind of rom-com side of it, which I thought was alright. But I think that makes up for the bad Toy Santa subplot. But it's not great, but again, Christmas, you'll watch anything at Christmas. And it's fun. Next up, National Treasure 2004. A historian races to find the legendary Templar treasure before a team of mercenaries. See, National Treasure was one of those movies that when I was a kid I loved it, and I just wanted to. I loved the National Treasure movies. But now that I've actually seen Cage's greatest hits over it, it's like this one's really not as good, is it? It's. I mean, it's family friendly, it's limited. I watched it again. I just thought it isn't as good as I remember it. It's not as exciting as I remember it. It's. I've seen better things since. I mean, there are people who are like, oh, I don't want to watch R-rated movies, but you're missing out on a lot if all you're watching is family-friendly movies. And if you are only watching PG movies, then maybe this one will come higher up. But I feel like I feel like you can't possibly compare it to the likes of Face Off and Con Air and The Rock and all the Cage classics. Even like Indiana Jones, like it's not quite Indiana Jones, is it? But it is a good movie. But I don't know. I remembered it being better. Yeah. Next up, I've gone for Conan the Barbarian, 1982. A young boy, Conan, becomes a slave after his parents are killed and tribe destroyed by a savage warlord and sorcerer, Tulsa Doom. When he grows up, he becomes a fearless, invincible fighter. Set free, he plots revenge against Tulsa Doom, who is played by James Earl Jones. And so this is Arnold Schwarzenegger coming back to acting after Hercules in New York with Conan the Barbarian, where he beefs it up as Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's a fun, fantasy action. Is it good? By today's standards? The CGI is definitely not, but it was 81. What are you gonna do? 82, my bad. But it was alright, but it's just like movies are a lot better nowadays, I mean, there's some classics in the 80s, but in general, movies are better now. And also, yeah, like Arnold was still working on his acting. I mean, it was alright, but he was still working on it. Next, I've gone for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania 2023. Scott Lang and Hope Van Dyne, along with Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, explore the quantum realm, where they interact with strange creatures and embark on an adventure that goes beyond the limits of what they thought was possible when they face Kang the Conqueror, who has been arrested. And it's just, the first time I watched it, this was a lot higher in my list, but I rewatched it and it didn't hold up for a second viewing. I thought the first time around it was fun. It was bad, it was fun. I felt like it took a lot of notes from Star Wars. They even had a cantina scene and bounty hunters and the bad guy using the Force, but and there was a Rebel Alliance as well, would you believe it? But it felt kind of like it felt like it took inspiration off Star Wars, but that's what happens when Disney own both studios. But I enjoyed MODOK, okay? I did. He's stupid, but I enjoyed him. But overall, I feel like the movie had a lot of bad writing, and oh boy, all the novelty really wore off the second time round. It was really wore off. Next one I've gone for is Christmas in Tahoe 2021. Follows Claire, an aspiring talent booker, as feelings come back between her and her boyfriend after she asks him to be her big act at her family's hotel and casino, and realizes that they might need each other more than they remembered. I watched this movie because it had the lead singer of Train, Pat Monahan, in it, and they did a Christmas album a while ago called Christmas in Tahoe, hence the name of the movie, and it features a bunch of the songs. And I ended up quite enjoying it, and I didn't think I would when the movie came on and it said Hallmark, but it was alright. It was alright. I don't know. Maybe I'm a sucker for that kind of thing now, but plus Train, can't go wrong with Train music. But there you go. It was alright. It wasn't great, but I enjoyed it. Following that is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2014. Yes, the Michael Bay one. When a kingpin threatens New York City, a group of mutated turtle warriors must emerge from the shadows to protect their home. I thought it was good. I don't get the whole thing of why everyone's having to deal with it. Oh, the CGI. Oh, Michael Bay. I thought it was good, okay? I thought it was alright. It just, I don't know. I don't get why it gets a bad rap sometimes. It was fun. Next up is Halloween Resurrection 2002. 3 years after he last terrorized his sister, Michael Myers confronts her again before traveling to Haddonfield to deal with the cast and crew of a reality show which is being broadcast from his old home. So the movie starts, and then it kills off Jamie Lee Curtis immediately. It's just like, okay, we're bringing back Jamie Lee Curtis to get you in the seats, and then we're going to kill her off, and then you have to watch whatever the hell this is. With Busta Rhymes doing a TV show in the Michael Myers house. Oh, it is bad. It's not. It is awful. It's not. The thing is, though, it's somewhat enjoyable awful rather than Season of the Witch. But I know. I feel like it was so like unironically funny that you can give it a pass. See, Halloween Resurrection. Next on my list, oh, here's the next one that's going to upset people. Five Nights at Freddy's 2023. A troubled security guard begins working at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. During his first night on the job, he realizes that the night shift won't be so easy to get through. Pretty soon, he will unveil what actually happened at Freddy's. I'm going to tag a spoiler alert here because I want to talk about certain stuff that will be deemed a spoiler. Okay, spoiler, you've been warned. Matthew Lillard carries it as Steve Raglan / William Afton / the Yellow Bunny that we all know is obviously Springtrap. The rest of the movie, I can't believe it. It was dull. A lot of it was dull and boring. And a lot of it, he just spent the time sleeping. And I get why, but bro, we came for a horror movie. We came to see the animatronics come and kill this guy in his office or something. It's, I don't know, there was a few cool bits, you know, there was the bite of 23, and then there was, you know, that one bit where he had the Freddy Fazbear Mask, which is basically like a saw trap at this point. And, you know, I feel like the Yellow Rabbit was good. You know, I like Springtrap. I think he's quite an interesting character, William Afton, whatever. I feel like this movie really kind of took all the game's lore, threw it up in the air, and cut whatever it could on the way down. It's just, it feels messy. I don't know. I feel like I saw a better movie about animatronics in a Chuck E. Cheese kind of place this year. You know. Next on my list is Krampus 2015. A boy who has a bad Christmas accidentally summons a festive demon to his family home. I feel like this is the kind of movie that's like, I think it just about balances comedy and horror. I think at times it didn't know which way it wanted to go more, but I think it just about balances it with a pretty decent cast. It's just, you know, it's not one of my favourites, but, you know, it's Christmas, it's a nice season. I don't want to see a movie where people die to a weird German demon Santa, but, you know, it can be a fun time if you drink enough. Next on my list is The Wicker Man 2006, the infamous Wicker Man. A sheriff investigating the disappearance of a young girl from a small island discovers there's a larger mystery to solve among the island's secretive neo-pagan community. I was really hooked on this as a mystery, horror, detective kind of thing. I know, I feel like it's a dark comedy, and I totally see where Cage is coming from, that it's not unironically funny. It's not ironically funny. It is supposed to be silly. It's supposed to be like a comedy as well, and I could see that in it. But imagine my disappointment when I watch it, and the famous "Not the Bees" scene wasn't there. I watched the PG version on Prime. I didn't realize it was a deleted scene. But overall, I think this movie is better than it gets credit for. It's not brilliant, but it's better than it gets credit for. I feel like it's quite interesting. And, yeah, this really does have some of Cage's top memes. But, you know, memes aside, it's alright, actually. It's not as bad as people say. Next we got Murder Mystery 2019. A New York cop and his wife go on a European vacation to reinvigorate the spark in their marriage, but end up getting framed and on the run for the death of an elderly billionaire. You know, I never would have figured. Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston have really good chemistry on screen together, and this is a really fun murder mystery movie. I mean, it's in the title, but you know, this was quite fun, and I'd absolutely be up to watch another of these after if they ever do a third one, because I don't know, these were quite fun. It's good to see Adam Sandler doing more stuff now, and you know, Jennifer Aniston's aged pretty well actually, but you know, they make a good team on movies. You know, I think it worked quite well. To break up this and Murder Mystery 2, I've slotted The Marvels 2023 into this gap. Carol Danvers gets her powers entangled with those of Kamala Khan and Monica Rambeau, forcing them to work together to save the universe. I thought this was going to be awful, not gonna lie. A lot of reviews said it was going to be absolutely awful. It felt like it was going to be bad. The trailers didn't do it much justice, and it had, you know, Captain Marvel, whose first movie wasn't great. Miss Marvel, whose TV show was awful, genuinely awful, and Monica Rambeau, who's just like, hey, I'm here. And, you know, I think over in the end, it actually ended up being somewhat fun with its trio comedy dynamic, despite the fact that it kind of had a lame, undeveloped villain, and, the amount of cringe when they went to a planet where everyone talks by singing, and they kind of just turned Miss Marvel into like a Disney princess, which I feel like that goes against the whole feminism thing that people are trying to go of, like female empowerment. It's just like, oh yeah, no, let's make her a marketable princess, you know? Guaranteed they're selling toys of that already. But you know, that entire scene was pretty cringeworthy, but other than that, it wasn't as bad as I expected. I would say it was probably better than Captain Marvel, and it was probably better than Miss Marvel, but it still wasn't great. Like, this year's not been a great year for Marvel, has it? But we had like one good Marvel movie, and that was it. I'm in no rush to see these characters come back, that's all I'm saying. As promised, next up is Murder Mystery 2, 2023. Full-time detectives Nick and Audrey are struggling to get their private eye agency off the ground. They find themselves at the center of international abduction when their friend Maharaja is kidnapped at his own lavish wedding. I feel like this one was just slightly better than the first one. Only slightly, it was really close. I don't know, I put this one just above. Pretty similar to the first one, same kind of formula, but I feel like the returning characters are like, they're more into themselves now, that they're kind of deeper into the character, like they understand the characters better and whatever, and they have more fun as well. And you know, I think I really, I hope they make a third one. These are quite easy watching. Like, they're not the best movies ever, but they're easy watching. Next we're going for the Chronicles of Riddick 2004. The wanted criminal Richard Bruno Riddick arrives on a planet called Helion Prime and finds himself up against an invading empire called the Necromongers, an army that plans to convert or kill all humans in the universe. This feels like something written by someone who went to a Star Trek or Star Wars convention and decided, hey, I can do this too. It's so like, oh, it's just like, it's one of those like, it's cheesy in a way. It's so left field compared to Pitch Black, but it's enjoyable. But at the same time, it's weird. It really does feel like someone tried to write like their own space story, like Star Wars, Star Trek kind of thing, and just went, hey. And now for the one that's going to have absolutely everybody watching this video holding a pitchfork outside my house. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse 2023. Miles Morales catapults across the multiverse, where he encounters a team of spider people charged with protecting its very existence. When the heroes clash on how to handle a new threat, Miles must redefine what it means to be a hero. Now, I wrote a review for this on IMDb, and they cancelled it. They cancelled my review because they didn't like it. So you know what? I took screenshots, and I'm just going to read it as it is, because here, IMDb can't touch me. I don't think I've been this bored in cinema for a while. This felt longer and more dragged out than 3 hours of Oppenheimer. I mean, Zack Snyder's Justice League felt less dragged out than this. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is easily the most overrated film of 2023 I've seen. I didn't see Barbie, but part of me wishes I'd seen that instead. Rave all you want about the visuals, but staring at those visuals for 2.5 hours on a large cinema screen soon becomes an eyesore. I have a minor personal gripe with Spider-Punk, mostly because everywhere I'm from in England, everyone tries to emulate the language and mannerisms of Hobie because they think it's cool. It's not. The lack of Spider-Noir and Spider-Ham was felt too, and that kind of knocked it down a bit for me. Spider-Man 2099 was incredibly predictable as a character. I don't get the hype there at all. So he's an edgy, unfunny Spider-Man, so what? He felt relatively flat in terms of character. Props where it's due, though. They did a great job turning the Spot into a genuine threat and not just a villain of the week. They should have focused more on his part of the story instead of the Spider Council side. Additionally, Indian Spider-Man, he was probably the best new addition in this film, as he seemed genuinely likable and had a really fun and unique vibe. The final act of this film dragged on for what felt like an hour in itself, throwing one plot twist followed by another, then a cliffhanger. But wait, there's more! 2 more cliffhangers later, and it's finally over. Pacing issues were prominent. Not even going to go into the detail about the various unnecessary woke/political statements hidden in plain sight. Not all movies need these kind of statements. Just make a movie, that an agenda. All those new video game movies have managed to function without a real-life agenda hiding within it, and that's one of the reasons the critics hate them, but the audiences love them. And my final point, which is more of a personal preference here, but Miles Morales just isn't as good as Peter Parker. He's nowhere near as compelling, and certainly not as iconic. When you say Spider-Man, the default name is Peter Parker for a reason. This isn't exactly the worst Spider-Man film, but No Way Home did Multiversal Spider-Man better, and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1 and 2 sweep them all. It shocks me to think that at one point this film was number 3 on IMDb's top 250 films, because in no reality should it be a canon event that this film ranks higher than The Dark Knight. I'm hoping in the future people will rewatch this film and realize it's not all that, and the undeserved 8.6 out of 10 rating drops a little lower. It is not peak fiction, but rant over. Next up, I've got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, 1991. The Turtles and the Shredder battle once again, this time for the last canister of the ooze that created the Turtles, with which Shredder wants to unleash an army of new mutants. You know what? It's fun. It's alright, but it's not as good as the first one. It's got an absolute bop in there with that whole Go Ninja Go thing going on, you know? It wasn't as good as the first one, but it was fun. Way better than the third one. Next up, Showdown in Little Tokyo, 1991 as well. 2 LA cops with opposing views on what is the best way to uphold the law have to work together to bring down the Yakuza while trying to protect a beautiful woman. This is just the 90s, isn't it? It was just like, action movie, bad guys, good guys, violence, protect the woman. It's a little formulaic, but, you know, sometimes it's nice just to watch one of these old action movies and just, you know, it's not deep. You just watch them beat guys up. You just watch these 2 guys just beat up like a whole swarm of like 50 Yakuza guys. And we just accept it. It was the beauty of movies back then. You could just escape the real world and watch something stupid. You know, we kind of miss that. They don't make action movies like they used to anymore. Maybe they're better now sometimes, but they don't make them like they used to, honestly. And next we're going for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, 1990. 4 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles emerge from the shadows to protect New York City from a gang of criminal ninjas. This is just... I watched this the same day after watching Mutant Mayhem, and I enjoyed this one so much more. This one was way more fun. I mean, yeah, the costumes aren't perfect, but they're really, like... They're good to watch, because like, they're quite well done for 1990, you know? It was fun. The Turtles felt like the Turtles that we all know. And I never realized this is where the haha, I made a funny meme came from. So I didn't realize that. But overall, I think this was quite a fun one. And yeah, I mean, it was the 90s, wasn't it? Next on my list is a Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves 2023. A charming thief and a band of unlikely adventurers embark on an epic quest to retrieve a lost relic, but things go dangerously awry when they run afoul of the wrong people. This was quite a fun film, actually. You know, I wasn't sure what to expect, but, you know, it had fun. It wasn't the best thing, but it's beaten a lot of these other movies, so it wasn't bad by any means. It just, you know, it's slightly forgettable, maybe. And I think it gave away a few of its funniest gags in the trailer, but pretty much all movies do that now. It's the only way you can get people in is by giving away your best jokes. But, you know, it was good film. Okay, ready for a string of Halloween. Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers, 1989. 1 year after the events of Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, 1988, the Shape returns to Haddonfield once again in an attempt to kill his now mute niece. There was a lot written here that felt badly written, but yeah, it's kind of your typical Halloween fare. But there's a certain fun to the Halloween films that sometimes they're just so mindless, but that's fun because you can just watch Michael Myers kill these characters, and if a character's annoying, it's like, oh, yay, Michael Myers killed them. Or if a character you like them, oh no, Michael Myers killed them. So yeah, either way, it's like you're invested in some degree in every character because it's either you don't want them to get killed or you want them to get killed. But this is one of the weaker ones in the series. You know, there's really not much more to say on that one. Next is Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, 1995. 6 years after Michael Myers last terrorized Haddonfield, he returns there in pursuit of his niece Jamie Lloyd, who has escaped with her newborn child, for which Michael and a mysterious cult have sinister plans. This one really went out there trying to do the whole Michael Myers cult thing, but I don't know. I feel like this one had quite a nice ending. It kind of just wrapped up the whole thing, and it gave Loomis a good send off because obviously the guy who played Loomis, he died around that kind of time. So they kind of gave him a send off by wrapping up his character's storyline. Yeah, so yeah, it was better than 5. Wasn't as good as the others. We're going to take a break from Halloween, but not from Jamie Lee Curtis. Christmas with the Cranks, 2004. With their daughter Blair away in Peru, Luther and Nora Crank decide to skip Christmas altogether until she decides to come home, causing an uproar when they have to celebrate it at the last minute. This is one that I think are really slated by the critics, but I don't see the issue. Tim Allen, Jamie Lee Curtis, they don't want to do Christmas. Everyone else wants them to. It's fun. Maybe it's just, I feel like you always think Christmas movies are a bit better than they are because of the whole Christmassy thing, but it's really not as bad as people say. Go on, give it a watch. Now we're going back to Jamie Lee Curtis and Halloween with Halloween H2O 20 years later, 1998. This is Halloween 3 in the Laurie Strode timeline, and Halloween 7 in terms of chronological release. It gets confusing. 20 years later, 1998. So Laurie Strode, now the daughter of now the dean of a Northern Carolina private school with an assumed name, must battle the Shape one last time, but she won't, as the life of her own son hangs in the balance. Yeah, so she does the whole thing. I really thought they were going to kill Michael Myers with water because it was H2O, but that's just H20, Halloween 20 years after the first one. I find it quite interesting that they often set them in the year that the movie comes out. Like the first one was set in 78, and then this one was set in 98, and that's the year they both released, really 20 years later. I feel like this was good. It was kind of a return to form after 5, 6, and Halloween 3. But yeah, I don't know. At this point, it's just like it's a Halloween film. It's a Halloween film that's neither great nor terrible. Next on my list is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, 1988. 10 years after his original massacre, the invalid Michael Myers awakens on Halloween Eve and returns to Haddonfield to kill his 7-year-old niece. Can Dr. Loomis stop him? How they brought him back after Halloween 2 is just like, it's beyond me, but I guess Halloween 3 did so bad, they were like, we need Michael Myers. How? He's dead. What if he wasn't? And, I feel like in most parts this was actually quite an alright movie. There's one bit at the end where Dr. Loomis kind of just screams when he realizes that the niece killed her mom or something, and I found that quite funny. But overall, I feel like this was quite an alright movie, and it was a good return to form after how shocking Halloween 3 was. I don't get why people are backing that movie so much, but Halloween 4, yeah, okay, it's a bit of a return to form. I'm alright with it. Next on the list is Halloween 2, 1981. While Dr. Loomis hunts for Michael Myers, a traumatized Laurie is rushed to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, and the Shape is not far behind her. This is like... It's a sequel. It does a lot of the same things, and therefore it's not as good as the first one. But no, I never really thought Halloween was all that great in most parts. They never really explained a lot of stuff about Michael Myers until they did the Rob Zombie one. I don't know. It just isn't... I mean, out of the Halloween films, this is a better one. But they're not the best overall. Next up is Halloween 1, 1978. 15 years after murdering his sister on Halloween night 1963, Michael Myers escapes from a mental hospital and returns to the small town of Haddonfield, Illinois to kill again. I mean, sure, it's classic. Sure, there's some badly written bits, some badly acted bits. Michael Myers' backstory is never really explained. It never explains why he can survive being shot 6 times, and it's not scary. And I feel like the real star of this movie is the soundtrack at this point. The amount of times that main theme got dropped, it's basically got more screen time than any of the characters did. It's just... Halloween isn't as good as people say it is, the whole franchise. It's not as good as people say it is. I'm kind of I preferred the Blumhouse trilogy, really. You know, Halloween it's alright. It's not the best. But, you know... as far as it goes, this is a good movie. So, you know, and for 78, I think at the time it would have been very scary. Next is Kingpin, 1996. A star bowler whose career was prematurely cut off hopes to ride a new prodigy to success and riches. I watched this straight after Ghost Rider 2, so this felt like an absolute masterpiece in comparison. It's about a bowler who gets his bowling hand destroyed, and he teams up with an Amish guy who he thinks is good at bowling, but then realizes that he doesn't bowl normal. He plays by different rules. And he's got, you know, it features a really eccentric Bill Murray. It's the guys who made Dumb and Dumber. It's fun. It's not quite Dumb and Dumber, but it's close. Alright, Pitch Black comes in 108th. That's from the year 2000. A transport ship crashes and leaves its crew stranded on a desert planet inhabited by bloodthirsty creatures that come out during an eclipse. The cinematography choices on this one were very unique, to say the least. Obviously, the movie's carried by Vin Diesel, who isn't really the main character in this one, but his character is the one that ends up getting the sequels and the spin-offs. I don't know, it's quite an interesting one. It's an alien movie, it's a horror movie, it doesn't do much new, but yeah, that's about it. And next is Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981. In 1936, archaeologist and adventurer Indiana Jones is hired by the US government to find the Ark of the Covenant before the Nazis can obtain its awesome powers. I think once you've seen The Big Bang Theory and you've seen the episode where they explain how this movie is completely pointless, it really ruins your enjoyment of the movie. Because I was watching it, I was like, you know what? He really had no purpose here, because the Nazis were going to open the Ark anyway, and they were all going to die. What was the point? Plus, it kind of retcons itself because he says he doesn't believe in magic, but this is said after the prequel Temple of Doom, where he very clearly saw a guy use magic to pull a guy's heart out of his chest. So, I don't know. When you retrospectively look at it, this movie is not perfect. It's not quite as great as they say, and I was really quite surprised at the iconic scene where he steals the idol from the temple and then the boulder and everything over traps. That was at the start of this movie, and it was just over and done with. It's right at the end. It's like, oh, I mean, it's a good intro, but I thought this was going to be more significant. But, you know, so yeah, you know, I rated it slightly below the next Indiana Jones movie. Next on my list, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. 1989. In 1938, after his father goes missing while pursuing the Holy Grail, Indiana Jones finds himself up against the Nazis again to stop them from obtaining its powers. Harrison Ford? Sean Connery? Oof. It's good. Next on my list is The Creator, 2023. Against the backdrop of a war between humans and robots with artificial intelligence, a former soldier finds a secret weapon, a robot in the form of a young child. Dull at times, not quite as epic as I'd have imagined. The trailer made it seem amazing, but this is a movie that really hates America. You don't get many movies that paint America as the bad guys, and this one really goes for it in favor of AI, which is like, I don't know. I feel like we're at times now where we need to be skeptical of AI, and but then again, if they ever were going to make a movie supporting AI, it would be now, wouldn't it? Learn from the Terminator, folks. But yeah, this movie is like really anti-Western, and it's like, I feel like it says a lot about our society right now. I don't know, I miss the days when we used to be patriotic about America, but you know. Next on my list is Ransom, 1996. Ransom, 1996. Multimillionaire Tom Mullen's son is kidnapped, but after initially agreeing to pay the ransom, Mullen then decides to use the ransom money as a bounty. That was I wasn't too hooked on this movie until that twist. That was clever. So the guy steals his son and say, hey, 2 million for your son back. He then goes on national TV and says, hey everyone, 2 million if you can bring me the guy who's got my son. And so basically it's like, give me my son or these guys are going to hunt you down and get their 2 million. And that was a really clever twist, and I think in the end that really bumped the movie up my rankings a bit. Next one, Jack Frost, 1998. A father who can't keep his promises is killed in a car accident. 1 year later, he returns as a snowman who has the final chance to put things right with his son before he's gone forever. I know, the critics slated this one as well, saying it was like a comedy, but the ending felt really like dark and sad for a comedy. But I think it was a really nice movie. It's about a father who gets a second chance to be the father he should have been to his son, and then, you know, at the end, yeah, it's a bit of a downer ending, but you know, the son and the wife, they get closure on the loss of Jack Frost and kind of get to accept that he's gone. I feel like it just, I feel like it's a really nice movie. Honestly, it's a really lovely film. Next up, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, 1984. In 1935, Indiana Jones is tasked by Indian villagers with reclaiming a rock stolen from them by a secret cult beneath the catacombs of an ancient palace. Racial stereotypes aside, they did not understand in America what Indians were and what they ate. Racial stereotypes aside, this is probably was my favourite one until the new one came out. Like, this is it's quite fun. It's quite dark as well compared to like the first one. First one's really light-hearted. This one's got some dark stuff. You know, sacrifices, the whole Kalima rips his heart out. And just, you know, I felt like Mola Ram was quite like a good villain to have, instead of just hey, it's the Nazis again. But you know, yeah, I feel like this was slightly better than the other Indiana Jones movies so far on my list. Next on my list is Halloween 2018. Laurie Strode confronts her longtime foe Michael Myers, the masked figure who has haunted her since she narrowly escaped his killing spree on Halloween night 4 decades ago. Now it's 2018, we got some better production going on here with Blumhouse, and I feel like this movie is just better than the original. I feel like it does quite nicely. I would actually say that honestly, in my opinion, they get better throughout the trilogy, which is kind of the opposite of the critic opinion. But I'm not known for following the public opinion at times. But yeah, I feel like Halloween 2018 is better than the other ones so far on my list. Just slightly beating that is Halloween 2007. Yes, the critically panned Rob Zombie ones. After being committed for 15 years, Michael Myers, now a grown man, is still very dangerous, escapes from the mental institution and immediately returns to Haddonfield to find his baby sister Laurie. You see, in the first movie, Michael Myers kills his sister in like the first couple of minutes and that's it. This movie spends about half an hour building up Michael Myers as a kid, building up his story, building up his descent into being a psychopathic killer, until eventually, about half an hour in, he finally kills his sister and his dad as well. And I feel like it took a lot more time to develop Michael Myers and to really get into his character, and that's what I liked about it. The rest of the movie, very similar to the first one, but you know, I think what sold it for me was just the fact that they actually built on Michael Myers in this one and made him more interesting and really kind of took a look into who Michael Myers was before he became the infamous killer. So, I quite like it for that angle. Alright, number 99, Expendables 4, 2023. Armed with every weapon they can get their hands on, the Expendables are the world's last line of defense and the team that gets called when all other options are off the table. That's vague. Well, Stallone wasn't in it so much. Schwarzenegger was absent. Terry Crews, I believe, was also absent. None of the returning villains like the amazing Jean-Claude Van Damme, didn't have Mel Gibson, didn't have a lot of the old cast, a lot of new cast. Jason Statham's kind of a lead guy now. Megan Fox. Brought in some other new guys. Overall, it's probably the weakest Expendables. I know it's pretty close to 1 and 3 for me, but the second one was so much better. And yeah, I feel like this one, it didn't have as much of like the good original action heroes. No Willis either, because obviously he had the dementia thing going on, dementia thing. So no Bruce Willis, no Arnold Schwarzenegger, very little Sylvester Stallone. I don't know, it didn't quite have the same effect. Next we got Riddick, 2013. Left for dead on a sun-scorched planet, Riddick finds himself up against an alien race of predators. Activating an emergency beacon alerts 2 ships, one carrying a new breed of mercenary, the other captained by a man from Riddick's past. I feel like this one's the best in the trilogy. It kind of takes aspects from the first movie and the second movie and just makes a movie that's very similar to the first movie again, but just kind of more built up. We know Riddick a bit better, and it does kind of rehash the first one, but without the weird cinematography choices. So yeah, I feel like Riddick is the peak of the trilogy, and I'm actually quite interested in the 4th one when that comes out. Next on my list is Copland, 1997. The sheriff of a suburban New Jersey community, populated by New York City police officers, slowly discovers the town is a front for mob connections and corruption. This is a very underrated performance from Sylvester Stallone in an actual drama role where he had to put on weight to play it. He's not an action hero in this one. He's a half-deaf cop who can barely do his job. And he's just, this is quite a good, it's got quite a strong cast as well. I think if I remember correctly, you had Ray Liotta and Robert De Niro. It's really kind of one of those old mob movie kind of things. It is quite a good film. Next one is Creed 3 from 2023. Adonis has been thriving in both his career and family life, but when a childhood friend and former boxing prodigy resurfaces, face-off is more than just a fight. There are good things. Jonathan Majors, he plays his role really well. Honestly, better than he played Kang the Conqueror. He should have gone more down this kind of route. There are bad things, such as how rushed the film feels, and the lack of Sylvester Stallone. I feel like they should have had Jonathan Majors' character win some more fights in between when he wins the title and when he fights Adonis. Like, he should have had some defenses against other kind of big name characters from the series that would have established him more as a threat. Because otherwise it's like, oh, he's just jumped straight into fighting Adonis. No way is he going to win. So, I felt a bit predictable in that sense. But overall, I think it was quite good. I actually enjoyed it more than the other Creed movies, but it's not Rocky, is it? I don't know, Creed will never be Rocky. Next on my list, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 2018. Teen Miles Morales becomes the Spider-Man of his universe and must join with 5 spider-powered individuals from other dimensions to stop a threat for all realities. I think this one's better than Across the Spider-Verse. I don't know, the cast of Spider-People I prefer. Mostly, I like Spider-Ham, he's really fun. I like Spider-Noir, Nick Cage. I feel like Miles' story is a bit better in this one. I preferred the villain in this one. I don't know, I quite like the angle that the Kingpin was coming from on this one. I feel like this was better. I mean, at the time I said this movie was overrated as well, and it still is. It's way overrated, but it's not as overrated as Across the Spider-Verse, which is just... see you now. Next on my list, Oppenheimer, 2023. The story of American scientist J. Robert Oppenheimer and his role in the development of the atomic bomb. This was probably the best movie of the year. It wasn't my favourite, but it was probably the best made movie, and it's going to absolutely sweep at the Oscars, I can just tell. It's got such a good cast, such good performances, it's a really interesting story, and I didn't actually feel as bored as I thought I was going to be. Like, I think I made the right choice watching Oppenheimer instead of Barbie. But, you know, it wasn't my favourite movie, it wasn't the most enjoyable, but it was really interesting, and it's one that I'm glad I watched, but I'm probably never going to watch it again. Because I've seen it, I know what happens now. And the scene with testing the nuclear bomb is by far the best scene, and that entire middle act where they're actually trying to build the bomb was the most interesting part. But really, really good movie. I think if you're interested in movies, like genuinely interested in movies, then you need to watch Oppenheimer, because it is really good. I mean, Christopher Nolan's done a lot of really good movies. Cillian Murphy just kills it as Oppenheimer. Robert Downey Jr., Florence Pugh, everyone else, they all really give it their all in this movie. It's really was probably the summer blockbuster of the year. So, you know, I mean, besides Barbie. I wouldn't recommend watching this before or after Barbie. This is so contrasting. Next on the list, we got Blade Trinity, 2004. Blade, now a wanted man by the FBI, must join forces with the Night Stalkers to face his most challenging enemy yet, Dracula. Yeah. Blade 3. Blade 3. Next up, Blade, 1998. A half-vampire, half-mortal man becomes a protector of the mortal race while slaying evil vampires. Blade. Next on my list is Deck the Halls, 2006. Two neighbors have it out after one of them decorates his house for the holiday so brightly that it can be seen from space. Again, I don't get why the critics have a problem with this one. It's fun, it's funny, it's almost typical of the neighbors hate each other and they have a little feud thing. And it's Danny DeVito. It's fun. Chill out, critics. Come on, it's a season to be jolly. Following that, The Flash, 2023. I will let it sink in that I rated that higher than Across the Spider-Verse. You hate me now, don't you? Flash 2023. Barry Allen uses his super speed to change the past, but his attempt to save his family creates a world without superheroes, forcing him to race for his life in order to save the future. I think it had a good story. I'm just going to say it. I think it had a good story. I liked seeing Michael Keaton back as Batman. The Two Flashes thing was interesting. Supergirl was actually really well played. Bringing back General Zod was good. The idea of the bad guy being another version of the Flash who kept failing over and over is really in character for the Flash, to be honest. I feel like all the writing was really good, but the CGI is dodgy. And you know, your own personal opinions on Ezra Miller aside, I really do think this was the more fun multiverse movie of the year, really. Not as bad as people say. Don't boycott it just because you don't like Ezra Miller. Appreciate the art for what it is, rather than, if you can call it art. Appreciate the movie for what it is. It's like you listen to Michael Jackson. You don't have a problem with that. Watch the movie. It's I don't know. A bad actor shouldn't put you off watching a movie if it's still a decent movie. And you know, I think the ending is quite funny, actually, the way it just drops the Flash in the same universe as a certain nefariously infamous Batman actor. So he's banished from DC now, and we're going to be getting James Gunn's DCU, which will be interesting. Next up, Elvis 2022. The life of American music icon Elvis Presley, from his childhood to becoming a rock and movie star in the 1950s while maintaining a complex relationship with his manager, Colonel Tom Parker. This was really well acted, really good Barbie. I wasn't too interested in it, but I have a relative who really liked Elvis, and they came over, so we watched the movie because he didn't have Sky Cinema, so he came over. We watched Elvis. It was really interesting, actually, and the whole story behind Elvis. So I just thought, oh, he was some famous guy back in the 50s who was the king of rock and roll, but rock and roll was something different back then. It wasn't like, rock. But it was really interesting. Tom Hanks plays his role really well. The guy playing Elvis is really good as well. This is quite a good biopic, actually. Yeah, definitely recommend. Next is Boiler Room, or How Not to Do My Job, from 2000. A college dropout attempting to live up to his father's high standards gets a job as a broker for a suburban investment firm, which puts him on the fast track to success. But the job might not be as legitimate as it first appeared to be. Now, this kind of stuff happened a lot in real life in that kind of time period. There was a lot of these boiler rooms where people kind of conned others into buying stocks and shares and whatever that really weren't going anywhere just to get a quick buck. Good movie, great cast. Boiler Room. Next, Bruce Almighty, 2003. A whiny news reporter is given the chance to step into God's shoes. I don't normally like movies that are too religious. That's not my crowd. But watching Bruce Almighty was one of the only good things I remember from my religious studies lessons in school. And it's a movie I come back to every now and then because it's quite fun. Jim Carrey's brilliant. Steve Carell, Jennifer Aniston, Morgan Freeman. It's a good cast. It's a good movie. It's not really my usual cup of tea, but I do enjoy it. It's quite a fun comedy. Jerry Maguire, 1996. When a sports agent has a moral epiphany and is fired for expressing it, he decides to put his new philosophy to the test as an independent agent with the only athlete who stays with him and his former colleague. And this is just a really nice kind of feel-good movie. He decides to stop being like a sleazy sports agent who kind of just does what's best for money. Really looks after his one really eccentric client who's very fun in the movie, and then ends up striking up a relationship with his colleague, and it's such a nice movie. Fast X, 2023. Dom Toretto and his family are targeted by the vengeful son of drug kingpin Hernan Reyes, played by Jason Momoa, who is very eccentric in this one. The Fast family are back to say family and drive their cars through stupid stuff and say family again, because nothing is stronger than family. And at this point, Fast and Furious has become so ridiculous, you'll actually find it's better just to laugh along with them and you'll enjoy it more. I mean, a car with a cannon on it, and a kid jumping between one high-speed vehicle into another, a car driving out of a plane and not completely destroying itself upon landing, and a car, the invincible Dodge Charger, that just drives down a dam and somehow is okay, down an exploding dam. Wow, this movie is bonkers. Triple X, 2002. The US government recruits extreme sports athlete Xander Cage to infiltrate a Russian criminal ring, which is plotting the destruction of the world. The idea of this was edgy 2000s James Bond. It was cool in the 2000s, and you can tell it was the 2000s. But yeah, this one's was quite fun. It's a lot better than the second one. It's Vin Diesel. He's the only one that can really it's got so much edge that it's like only Vin Diesel can deliver it, really. Next, The Santa Claus, 1994. When a man inadvertently makes Santa fall off his roof on Christmas Eve, he finds himself magically recruited to take his place. It's a Christmas classic, guys. You know. It, 2017. In the summer of 1989, a group of bullied kids band together to destroy a shape-shifting monster which disguises itself as a clown and preys on the children of Derry, their small Maine town. It's got kind of a Stranger Things thing to it. I mean, one of the kids is literally from Stranger Things, but it's got a Stranger Things kind of vibe, A bunch of kids in a little town trying to deal with mysterious circumstances. It's a bit creepier than my usual horror movie. The guy playing Pennywise, man, he's creepy. Creepy guy. Hello, Georgie. Want a balloon? Everybody likes balloons. You'll float too. Yes. Oh, he's so creepy. But, you know, it was quite a good film. It was well made. I think this was Blumhouse as well. Blumhouse are quite good at what they do. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Oh, the critics are at it again. 2023. Archaeologist Indiana Jones races against time to retrieve a legendary artifact that can change the course of history. I thought this was the best Indiana Jones. It had the best effects. It had a good storyline, a good villain that isn't just, oh, it's a Nazi. It's, oh, it's a Nazi who wants to be even, like, more evil than Hitler. And so, like, you know, whoa, this guy's for real. And I mean, I kind of figured at some point they were going to end up, spoiler alert, going through time with this Dial of Destiny. But it was really interesting that they ended up just going back to when it was made and back into like the old kind of Greek or Roman times. It was, I don't know, I thought this was a really good movie. Some aspects didn't work. I mean, the female sidekick was kind of annoying. The kid sidekick, he wasn't short round, but you know, I think a lot of stuff worked here. And say what you will about de-aging with CGI, but I really enjoyed the sequence with Harrison Ford de-aged and at the start. I thought it was really fun, and you know, I think it is quite a clever technology, and I think when used correctly with the right consent and everything, I think digitally de-aging characters it can be a good thing. I'm not gonna go any further. I don't want to start the whole AI in movies argument. Next on my list is How the Grinch Stole Christmas 2000. On the outskirts of Whoville lives a green, revenge-seeking Grinch who plans to ruin Christmas for all of the citizens of the town. Jim Carrey is hilarious. Jim Carrey really goes 110% with this one. I mean, considering how painful those prosthetics were for him as well, like, on the face with the Grinch makeup, you know, kudos to him. Really got to respect how much work he put into that one.